Hello, future EPQ students. This is the first step to registering the fact that you'd be interested in studying EPQ. You won't start any lessons in EPQ until October, and then the course will run through until the September of the next academic year, so the first part of your second year in A-level. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the course just in case you weren't there at the lecture or you need a refresher, and then I will explain what you need to do to enrol onto EPQ. So just a few things to be aware of. It's half an A-level, and you'll have one lecture a week and 1 hour of classroom time a week in a computer room. So you'll have a lecture a week where I share information that all of the group need to access as a whole, and then after that you'll have a smaller group where you work in a classroom, and I'll come around every week and ask you how things are going. You'll have 4 one-to-one meetings with the supervisor throughout the year, and those months are slightly off, so you will have one in September, you'll have one in December, one in February, and then one later in the year. So one final one. It should take, and this is a really important thing to consider when developing your idea, it should take 90 hours of independent work. So you've got the hour lecture, which doesn't count, you have an hour in class time, which does, and then you have within that class time, so then you will have 2 hours outside of class, so 3 hours every week where you will work on your EPQ independently. So there's 2 things to bear in mind there. So a lot of that of independent work outside of the classroom, which is completely manageable, especially if you pick a topic you're really interested in. The other thing to consider is don't make the topic huge, so it takes 500 hours, or don't make it so small you could finish it in 10 hours. So do think about how much 90 hours of independent work, how much can you get done in that time. 50% of the mark comes from the report or the artifact, so either the 5,000 word report you write, or the artifact that you create, which, as we discussed in the lecture and is on the PowerPoints, could be absolutely anything: planning a charity event, baking a cake, creating a dress, making a dress, making a handbag, programming a computer program, had someone make a camera. Anything that you can think of at all, you can do at EPQ. And then 50% is a production log. Everybody has to do a production log, and it details your step-by-step process of completing EPQ. Both of those are equally important. If you have a poor report but a fabulous production log, you've limited your mark. If you have a fabulous production log, if you have a fabulous report and a poor production log, you are limiting your chances. Make both amazing, and you'll get a really good grade. There's a presentation in a marketplace, and that will be around February time. That is still to be confirmed exactly when, but this is very simple. Don't be put off by this. Remember what I said in the lecture as well. It's people walking around. You have a stall, you have a board, and people walk around and ask you questions. You do not stand up in front of a group of people and share your ideas. People come and talk to you about them, and every single EPQ student I've spoken to, when they hand in their final piece, without fail says, oh, the presentation was nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be. So please do not let that put you off. Just be aware it's something that has to happen. And then do not go back and change documents. Now this one isn't really relevant to you just yet, but it's absolutely vital that you're aware of it now. You'll see in the paperwork, you'll complete some paperwork, we'll have a discussion which you'll record, and then you'll tell me your responses to that. What you must never do is go back and change it. So for example, if you say in your initial record of ideas that this is your title or this is your topic, we have a conversation and you decide to change that, do not go back and edit the paperwork. Keep that original idea there. In your modifications, explain why you have made those changes. One of the assessment's objectives is showing develop and realise, so clear evidence of changes and justifications as to why. It doesn't matter that you've made a change, it's a good thing that you've made a change. Show that change that you've made and tell me why. If you go back and edit it, then I can't give you any marks for that. So that won't be relevant to you at the moment, but it's absolutely vital you remember, do not go back and change things. And it cannot be something that you already have studied or will study in the first or the second year. So do check the specifications, do email and contact the tutors. For example, in psychology we look at eating behaviours, so you'd need to check with Andy or myself about if you wanted to do anorexia or bulimia or obesity, for example. So just make sure that you're not saying you're going to study something which is on the specification. Okay. To give you an idea of the process, the initial record of ideas, which is the piece of paperwork you are going to fill in and hand in on enrolment day to register your interest in completing EPQ, is at the top, and it's at the top of the upside down triangle because it's incredibly broad. I want to do EPQ, this is roughly the topic. You don't even really need a title. You need to have some ideas of what you want to do, you want to be developing them, but they are very, very broad. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of information and detail on your form, it's very detailed, but this is roughly what you want to do. Then you'll meet with your supervisor in September and October, and you'll discuss your ideas, you'll refine them, you'll go and speak to other subject specialists, and then you will complete your Part A, which you will hand in October, and this is you putting forward a proposal. This is what I would like to do, this is the project, you've refined it, you've got a title for it, it's more focused. You'll get some written feedback and approval saying yes you can complete it, no you can't, or yes you can but with edits, and then finally you do your planning review. Said right, it's been approved that I can complete this project, this report, this artifact. This is how my plan. In September I'll do this, in October I'll do this, in November this, and so on and so on. But obviously we're talking a very, very long way away, so you'll get much more detail on that. But that's the process. First piece of paperwork, this is roughly what I want to do. Second piece of paperwork, I'd like, please can I do this? Third piece of paperwork, I've been told I can do it, this is how I plan to do it. Okay, and you want to see the difference between the initial record of ideas, which is there's a lot of detail, but it's the actual idea itself is quite vague, all the way down to complete your Part A, which is a very specific idea that you want, which you still have the opportunity to change, but we need to see that big change between those broad, vague ideas in initial record of ideas to very focused in your Part A. So something to bear in mind that's really, really important is that what you are completing now is part of your submission for 2019-2020. So you must make sure that it's good, okay? You are doing some paperwork now that in a year's time will be assessed. So don't think I'll come back to it. You can't change it. You need to have the level of quality that you would be working at for your coursework the day before the deadline, or of course none of you would lead your coursework to the day before, but maybe the weeks running up to it. The piece of paperwork you hand in to me now must be that hand-in level of quality. Make sure that it's high quality. I've had students who've handed in the last bit of the production log and it's been 5 pages long, which is far too detailed. Lots and lots of detail and information, but because they're planning their initial record of ideas, their planning review, their mid-project, all that other paperwork was fairly minimal, they would scrape to pass. So you must make sure your paperwork's good the whole way through. So this is an example of the paperwork, and if you have a look, it's attached to the email. So one of the first things you're asked is your first idea for the topic, and we have one person who's named a possible title here. You do not need to have a title, you just need to have some rough ideas. So if you're panicking you haven't got a title, it doesn't matter, and it doesn't have to just be one. It could be lots and lots of well, I say lots and lots, maybe not lots, but a couple, 2 or 3 different topics, different ideas, roughly what you might look at, and it's fine if you have all of that written in, because by the time you get to your modifications at the end you will have refined it. So it's a bit like a mind dump onto the page, essentially. You just write everything down that you can think of. Another example here is someone who's written quite a few different title ideas. Some people we've had have just written roughly the topic they want to look at. After this, your first ideas for research and development of your project. This is vital that you have a high level of detail in it, and I'll come back to the examiner's report in a minute to talk about that. So this part of your production log, this part of the paperwork needs to be very, very detailed. It's your first idea, so you can't expect you to know exactly what you're going to be talking about, but it's an idea of the things you'll discuss. And this example, I would recommend reading that carefully and mirroring your answer using this structure. So in this first paragraph, they talk about what information they're going to start by looking at to get a feel for the topic. So you're roughly thinking about, and you could do this several times. I've had some students who've done, they've done it in different colours, which isn't essential, but like a paragraph or a section on idea 1, a section on idea 2, and they've explained both of them, and then by the end of it, by the time they've completed the paperwork after they've met with the supervisor, they've picked their topic. So on this one, it's what they're going to do. They're going to look at the actual reforms that Michael Gove intended to put in place. and how this is different to the curriculum now. So she's talking about specific things that were going to happen, and then what compared to secondary research for both his second and first reform drafts. So you're talking about that. Then saying after this initial research, so after that first bit, we wouldn't expect you to know any more than kind of initially where you might start. So this first paragraph is roughly what you're going to start with. The second paragraph is saying what you'll then go on to do, and it says up here this is in more general terms how you will complete your how will your research continue, and key for the higher level skills, the higher marks, is why you're going to do it this way. So we wouldn't expect you to then start to talk about, continue to be able to talk about this specific piece of information you're going to be looking at, that specific piece of information, but you're going to say more generally how you would generically continue and conduct research and why you would do it that way. In the third paragraph, you want to consider primary research. So are you going to contact subject specialists? Are you going to conduct any primary research where you get a sample of people, you get them to fill a questionnaire, an interview? Think carefully. That is not essential for EPQ. You must make sure that if you do decide to do it, it fits into your report and it is done well. I've had too many students who said they're going to do primary research because it sounded fun. They didn't plan it well, they didn't include it in their report, and it dragged their title, their grade down. Whichever you decide, put it in your ideas. So it says here, consider primary research, explain why or why not you are going to use it. Either is absolutely fine. The why is the key bit for both of those two paragraphs we've just spoken about. It's not just I will do this, it's why, and that's where you get the higher marks. And then this final paragraph, how you plan to start your report. So this person's gone with the fact it would be for and against paragraphs because it's quite clear that she's going to draw some debate. So roughly how the structuring of your report might go. Of course, we wouldn't expect you to know in lots and lots of detail about that at this point, but it is something that's really, really important to be aware of. Sort of to show that you're thinking about. So roughly how might the structuring work. If it changes, doesn't matter in the slightest, but just something to talk about. Please look at this and consider this level of detail. That is the level of detail of a high quality EPQ piece of paperwork for the initial record of ideas. Okay. An examiner's reports comments, there's quite a few here, so don't panic too much, but just to explain why I'm emphasising detail so much. First of all, avoid dual accreditation. That basically means don't say that you are going to do something in your EPQ which you are going to study in one of your A-level subjects. So simple as that. Check the second and the first year content. A quote that I thought was really significant: there was an observed correlation between the effectiveness of completion of the production logs and the quality of the outcome. So if the production log was good, the report or the artifact was good, which meant that you would get a good grade. So make sure both your production log and your report or artifact is good. And then one of the problems that centre coordinators had, i.e. me and other people who work in the college who say that yes, you can do that EPQ, some of the mistakes that they made, so things that we will not be allowing to be approved, which is your Part A, but things to consider is that we shouldn't accept anyone's proposals without candidates having demonstrated they have completed adequate or in fact any preliminary research. So you've got your initial ideas, make sure that you are doing some research to start off those ideas. And that you should check before the proposal stage, so over the summer now, whether there'll be any useful information. It says here, contact doctors, medical workers or academics, anybody that's a primary sort of source. Check now over the summer if they will be able to provide you with some information. It says very little to no detail in the My Intended Project section of the proposal. Make sure there's detail everywhere. So from that report you can take that you must have conducted some initial research before you hand in your Part A. So do your initial record of idea paperwork that's attached to your email and then start doing some research. Check your primary sources and make sure you have lots of detail in your paperwork. To give you an idea what will happen next in September, I'll meet with you and I'll give you some comments. These are the summary of comments from supervisor. You will note them down in your paperwork and you will respond to them with modifications. For example, here I told somebody that their project was their title was too broad, so they talked about how they picked the significant parts to narrow their title down. Same with asked them to proofread their title. They went away and they did some research and they proofread, so maybe pause the video and have a read of these modifications. You cannot include summary of comments until you have met with me in September. So all you need to complete is your topic ideas and then your initial ideas. You do not need to include your summary of comments. This is just to show you that what the next stage. You will meet with me, you'll discuss this with me, and then you'll respond to my comments. So I was worried this person was going to show quite a high level of bias, and they did some research and explained how they would avoid bias, and I also told them to plan their primary research carefully, and this is their response to me telling them to do that. Okay. So, attached to the email there will be a PowerPoint slide that I showed you in the lecture theatre on the Taster Week. There is a piece of the paperwork as well. So watch this video, fill in the paperwork, bring it on GCSE enrolment day to hand in. When you do that, as long as there's enough detail, your piece of paperwork is fully completed fully to a high standard, then we will be able to start you on the process of EPQ. Although you may get some feedback in your Part A, Part B or Part C, which is something that I provide with you, that you need to make some changes. Okay, so GCSE enrolment day, bring in the paperwork that is attached using this video and the other PowerPoint that's attached to the email to complete that paperwork. If you struggle with anything at any point, please email me and let me know, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, thank you very much.